Anderson, I'm throwing to you cold here. Pick up the story. Tell us what's going on.
Rick, I want to show you the face of hope in Haiti today. A little boy by the name of Monly Elise. I was at General Hospital about an hour and a half ago when he came in. His uncle brought him in a vehicle, took him out, rushed him through the crowds of hundreds of people who were waiting. This little boy, according to the uncle, was pulled out of the rubble of his home today at around 12:30. Extraordinary that a 5-year-old boy could live for 8 days in the rubble. He was found in a void space in the collapsed home, curled up, his uncle says, just in a ball on the floor. They had heard him crying out. The uncle was actually searching through the rubble looking for the dead body of his brother. This boy's father also believes the boy's mother is dead and is in the rubble as well. Didn't find those two bodies, but heard the little boy crying out, and with 4 of his friends, not with some international search and rescue team, but with 4 of his friends, pulled the little boy out, he says, and brought him immediately to the hospital. You see he's being treated by a doctor and a nurse from the International Medical Corps. They say, remarkably, he's in not that bad shape. He's severely dehydrated. They're giving him, obviously, fluids right away, intravenous fluids. But you could also tell he was severely dehydrated by pinching his skin. Normally, if you pinch your skin or my skin, it bounces right back. When you pinch somebody who's severe dehydration, you pinch the skin stays in that position. It doesn't bounce back. They could also tell that the boy's his body was essentially starting to feed on itself. There was a smell, actually, of alcohol emanating from his organs, which the doctor assured me is the smell of somebody who has this syndrome of wasting, that the body is, as I said, just sort of consuming itself. But, this little boy drank water for the first time. They couldn't give him too much water. He actually even said he was hungry, but they couldn't feed him right away because you can't do that to someone who hasn't had anything for 8 days. His uncle said he didn't think he had food or water. Medically, that seems extraordinary. We don't know the situation this little boy faced while he was in the rubble. All he could say is, I'm thirsty, I'm thirsty, I'm thirsty. And he would say that over and over again, Rick.
What a story. 8 days. 8 days. Just sitting there waiting, hoping, praying while you have nothing to drink and nothing to eat. Anderson, I have to ask you a question about what happened last night. When I woke up this morning, the first thing I heard was that there'd been another earthquake. We call them aftershocks. First they said 6.1, now it's 5 point something. The numbers don't really matter, but what was it like? How big of an effect did it have on Port-au-Prince? And what was it like for you when you felt it?
Honestly, it was like 6 a.m. I had just gotten up. The building started to sway. It was clearly it felt like the biggest aftershock I had felt since I'd been here. I honestly looked up at the ceiling, kind of wondering, is the ceiling going to collapse? And then I put on a pair of pants and went and stood in the doorway of the room that I'm staying in, because the doorways are the safest place to stay. I thought about running out of the building, but, to be honest, it was a long way to the stair, and I figured I wouldn't get there anyway if the whole thing was coming down, so I'd just stay in the doorway. So that's what I did, and the building held up, and I was thankful of that. It's a hotel that I've been able to stay in. I think someone in the hotel who worked from Portugal, I heard, actually jumped out a window and injured himself trying to escape. So I'm a big believer in you can run into something as much as run away from something. So I just kind of, got into a doorway and stood where I was. But, as happens with all aftershocks, the park behind me, which is still home to hundreds and hundreds of people, after there's an aftershock, people just start screaming. There's a wail that goes up. That is, it's a horrible sound. People are understandably scared. Something like one of these big aftershocks we had this morning really brings it back from people. And there's so many people sleeping on the streets, nudged up against buildings. Instantly everybody runs away from the buildings, tries to kind of congregate in the park itself so that nothing will fall down on them. But it was, and Rick, I was just at that hospital. The reason I'd gone to that hospital where I saw the little boy today is because they actually ended up having to evacuate all the patients from General Hospital and put them in the courtyard of the hospital, and they've been sitting out in the sun, getting dehydrated. It is a mess there today. They're now, the building is safe. Structural engineers looked at it from the Army Corps of Engineers. They're now moving patients slowly back in, but it's caused, a big setback for an awful lot of folks here.
I'll tell you, scary times down there. Anderson Cooper doing yeoman's work day after day, night after night, bringing us the stories that are taking place right now in and around Port-au-Prince and Haiti. Thanks, Anderson. Appreciate it.